Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. So today I'm going to talk about 5 things that we are still getting used to living here in Canada, thoughts on how it's like living here. But yeah, if it's something that you're interested in, or if you're wanting to know more about what it's like to live in Canada, then stay till the end of this video to see what these 5 things are for us that we're trying to get used to living here in Canada. So the first one would be, as you guys can see behind me, is the snow, the weather. The weather here in Canada is so different. Coming from Australia where it was warm, so we're now living here in Canada where the weather is negative 35 degrees on really cold days. But today is actually not too bad. It's negative 18 degrees, which is still cold. It took us a while to get used to the change in weather because our bodies were climatized to the Australian weather, so we had to get used to the cold weather here. So I feel like over Christmas and New Year's we were just getting sick all the time because the kids were getting sick, and then, you know, when one person in the family gets sick, everyone else gets sick. So that was what was happening with our family when we just moved here, trying to get used to the weather here in Canada. So as I mentioned, the weather has been different for us, especially for our kids, trying to adjust to the cold weather here. But in saying that, we have enjoyed doing the activities, the winter activities and the snow activities here in Canada. If you're looking to come to Canada, just be prepared. It is very cold here. Yeah, and for my Polynesian skin, everything is just drying up. My skin is always dry, so you're always having to moisturize. And my Polynesian skin was just not made for this cold weather because, yeah, like I said, everything is super dry. It's dry here, so you're always having to moisturize so that, yeah, your skin. The second thing that we noticed that was different here in Canada is that they have 4-way stops. I'll show in a video here, but they don't really do roundabouts here, which has been different for us in learning the road rules here. So whoever is first at the stop at the 4-way, that's the person that goes first, if that makes sense. So yeah, so each car, the next car that comes, it's their turn to go first. So that is different here in Canada, because in Australia and New Zealand you have all of the roundabouts that I feel like it's more easier. Because when I see the roads here, sometimes I feel like a roundabout would be more appropriate. But anyways, that's the kind of roads they have, and that's something that we had to get used to as well here, is the 4-way stops instead of roundabouts. So the third thing that we had to get used to here in Canada is snow. So shoveling the snow. Over here in Canada, you have to shovel the snow within 24 hours of the first snowfall. I have a video here of Breck shoveling the snow, but that is something that we had to get used to doing. That is different for us living here. We've never had to shovel snow because it's never snowed in Australia and New Zealand where we've lived. So that is something that we're getting used to, or should I say Breck is trying to get used to, because yeah, the snow is freezing, and sometimes when it's like super cold, it's even colder to like shovel snow. But yeah, that's something we're getting used to doing here. And we also did not know that we had to shovel the snow within 24 hours, obviously for safety reasons. But yeah, we learned that through a family member that told us. So we had to make sure that we shovel the snow within 24 hours. That's the fourth thing that we had to get used to living here in Canada, is the kind of food that they have here. It's a lot more processed than the food that we have in Australia and New Zealand. The eggs, for instance, when we just moved here, we got eggs from the store, and the eggs, like the yolk was so yellow, like it it's not the normal eggs that we're used to seeing in Australia and New Zealand. So that was one thing. And even the taste, like I kind of had to get myself used to the taste of the eggs here. And a lot of the other foods that we have here too, is the taste. It tastes different to what we're used to back home. Or try and find eggs that were more of the same color as the eggs that we have back home that we're used to. And a lot of the times those foods are a little bit more expensive. They're more organic, I would say. So yeah, that is something that we had to get used to, and we're still getting used to. We kind of went through a phase where we were just over, like, we just didn't have a sense of smell of like the food here because it's different. I don't know if like the altitude of where we live has a part to play in that too, but yeah, that's what we were finding here in Canada is, yeah, just the taste of food is a lot more different to back home. The amount of processed foods that they have here compared to back home. So yeah, that's something that we're getting used to, and we're still getting used to now, but I feel like we've found a lot of products that are very kind of substitute to what we're used to, so that's helping us as well. I feel like it will take us a little while to get used to the food here, but so far it hasn't been too bad. We're also finding that chicken here is a lot more expensive than it is back in Australia and New Zealand. A lot of the times we find the halal brand, which is a lot more cheaper for us when we're trying to buy chicken, if we're wanting to buy chicken for our dinners. So that is something that we're trying to get used to, because we're used to getting chicken all the time as like a staple in the house, like a staple meal throughout the week for dinners in our home. But yeah, now that it's a little bit more expensive, I think other meats make up for it though, like ribs we're finding a lot cheaper here. The food that we normally have in Australia and New Zealand, that was a staple for us, is now switched to something different. Like mince is still cheap too, but yeah, that's just what we are trying to get used to here. So number 5 is the bulk items. The amount of bulk items that they sell at the local supermarket or the local grocery store. For us, coming from New Zealand and Australia, we don't really we don't really sell bulk items in the local supermarkets, but it's something that you would normally find at Costco for us. But yeah, over here it's different seeing the bulk items that they sell at the local grocery stores. Whenever we're doing our grocery shopping, it's different. Whenever we do our grocery shopping and we see all the bulk items available, that's something that we're still getting used to, and we still buzz out when we see these huge packets of chips and these huge massive bulk items that they have in store. So yeah, that's something that we're still getting used to, and which is different here, living here in Canada, and I'm sure it's the same too in America. We also like that they have these bulk items, because for a big family like ours, it is nice to buy big bulk items that will help feed our whole family, and wouldn't cost an arm and a leg, because some of the home brand bulk items are actually very good prices. And yeah, so something else that is also different for us living here in Canada that we've had to adjust to is the whole metric system. So in terms of kilometers, they use kilometers here. For the ovens, it's Fahrenheit, and also in store they use pounds instead of kgs. Sometimes we'd be looking at the price of things in the store, but would have to look at it probably because it's in pounds and not in kgs. So the kg sign, as you can see in the video, the kg is right underneath the pound price for the fruit and veggies. That is something that we had to get used to, and still getting used to living here in Canada. Driving on the other side of the road, we drive on the left hand side in New Zealand and Australia, but here in Canada and also in the US, it's on the right side. I had to get my bearings with the road because I just didn't feel confident enough driving on the right side. I always felt like I was driving too close to the line or to like the middle of the lane. That is something that we're still getting used to, is driving on the left side. I feel like we're getting better now. Brick, I'm still getting there with my driving here. Makes it worse too because of the snow on the roads, which makes it harder for me to want to even drive. But most of the time Brick is the one driving anyways, and so he's like super comfortable now with the roads. When we first got here, it was a little bit tricky for him at the start driving on the right side, but now he's so used to it. Me on the other hand, I'm still getting used to it because yeah, like I said, I don't drive as much. Brick is usually the one driving, so yeah. I just also say that first of all, you're trying to get used to knowing how to drive here on the right side, and then when snow comes into the picture too, it makes it 10 times harder to be able to drive, because then you can't even see the lanes on the roads. Like when it's like fully snowed over, you can't really see the lanes on the road, and that's why Brick is always too scared to let me drive on my own in the snow. If you're new to this country, you really have to kind of get your bearings with knowing how to drive on the snow. So that is something that Brick's had to learn how to do, because he's mostly driving, is learning how to drive in this kind of weather and with the snow, especially when the snow hasn't been plowed yet, and you just, yeah, and the snow is so thick on the roads, it's a little bit harder to see the lanes. And then also, people here are just crazy drivers, I feel. When we were in New Zealand, people were quite polite on the roads in terms of like giving way, but when we moved to Australia, they were so bad on the roads. Like no one would give way to you. Everyone was so prideful on the roads in Australia too, which was really bad. And then we came here and I was like, oh, they're not too bad. I'm starting to see that, you know, people here are just as bad as they are in Australia in terms of like road etiquette and, you know, giving way to people. Everyone would just like keep driving even though they should be giving way to you. But yeah, that was something that we are still getting used to. But yeah, that's different for us. So those are the 5 things that we are getting used to, or still getting used to, living here in Canada. We hope that this video has helped you guys learn a little bit more about what it's like living here for us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new, and if you are a regular viewer, thank you for stopping by and thank you for watching. We appreciate the support for our channel, and yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next video. Bye.